You're 3 days from payday, and you're checking your bank account for the fourth time today, doing that mental math where you're like, okay, if I skip lunch tomorrow and don't go out this weekend, I can probably make it work. And the confusing part is that you're not even spending money on anything crazy. You're not buying designer clothes or going on expensive trips. You're just living, getting coffee, ordering food when you're tired, maybe grabbing drinks with friends once in a while. Normal stuff. But somehow your money just evaporates, and you end up in this exact same position every single month, staring at your balance and wondering how it got so low again. My name is Mindly, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, behavioral psychology, and why people in their 20s especially seem to fall into these specific financial patterns that keep them broke even when they're making decent money. And what I've realized after obsessing over this for years is that being broke in your 20s usually isn't about your income. It's about these subtle habits that feel completely normal in the moment, but that quietly drain your accounts and prevent you from ever building any real financial cushion. So what I want to do here is walk through the 7 specific money habits that are probably keeping you broke right now. And more importantly, I want to explain why these habits feel so normal, why your brain keeps defaulting to them, and what you can actually do differently. Because here's the thing, once you see these patterns clearly, once you understand the psychology behind them, they become way easier to change. And honestly, even small shifts in these areas can completely transform your financial situation faster than you'd think. The first habit, and this is probably the biggest one, is treating your bank account balance as your spending limit. Like, you check your account, see you have $800, and your brain goes, okay, I have $800 to spend. But that's not actually how it works, right? Because rent is coming up, and your phone bill and groceries and all these other fixed expenses that haven't hit yet. But in the moment, when you see that number, it feels like available money, and so you spend accordingly. This is such a subtle trap because it feels responsible to check your balance before spending. You're not just swiping your card blindly, you're being conscious and checking first. But what you're really doing is making spending decisions based on incomplete information. You're looking at a snapshot of one moment in time without accounting for the money that's already committed to future expenses. And the result is that you overspend, not because you're reckless, but because you're using the wrong metric to guide your decisions. The second habit is what I call lifestyle creep, but it's the micro version that nobody talks about. It's not about buying a new car or moving to a fancy apartment. It's about all these tiny upgrades that happen so gradually you don't even notice. You used to make coffee at home. Now you grab it on the way to work because it's only $4. You used to bring lunch. Now you buy it because cooking feels like too much effort after work. You used to have one streaming service. Now you have 5 because you wanted to watch that one show and then you just never canceled. Each individual upgrade seems insignificant. $4 for coffee, who cares? But when you add up all these micro lifestyle creeps, you're suddenly spending an extra $300 or $400 a month on stuff that you didn't even consciously decide was worth it. Your expenses quietly inflated to match your income without you making any deliberate choice about it. And that's the thing about lifestyle creep. It doesn't feel like a decision. It just feels like life gradually getting a little easier and more convenient. But convenience is expensive, and those costs add up way faster than you realize. The third habit is using shopping as emotional regulation. And look, I'm not judging this. Basically, everyone does it to some degree. You had a bad day at work, so you treat yourself to something online. You're bored on a Sunday afternoon, so you scroll through Instagram and end up buying something you saw in an ad. You're stressed about your finances, which ironically leads to stress shopping, because buying things gives you that little hit of dopamine that makes you feel better temporarily. This is where the psychology gets really interesting, because shopping activates the same reward pathways in your brain as other pleasurable activities. When you buy something, your brain releases dopamine, and you get that brief feeling of excitement and satisfaction. But here's the problem. The good feeling fades really quickly, usually within hours or even minutes, while the financial consequence lasts way longer. So you end up in this cycle where you're constantly chasing that brief emotional lift through purchases, but you're simultaneously creating the financial stress that made you want to shop in the first place. The fourth habit, and this one is huge, is not tracking where your money actually goes. You have a vague sense that you spend too much on food or that subscriptions are adding up, but you've never actually sat down and looked at the numbers. And the reason you haven't is because, honestly, it feels kind of scary and depressing to confront exactly how much you're spending on things that don't really matter to you. But here's what happens when you don't track. Your brain fills in the gaps with guesses, and those guesses are almost always way off. You think you spend maybe $200 a month eating out, but it's actually closer to $400. You think those subscriptions are like $50 total, but when you actually add them up, it's $120. The gap between what you think you're spending and what you're actually spending is usually shocking. And that gap is where all your money disappears. The fifth habit is something I think about a lot, which is this tendency to prioritize short-term comfort over long-term security. Like, you should probably be saving money, but you're also tired and you want to enjoy your life now, and saving feels like this abstract thing for future you to worry about. So you choose the thing that feels good right now, the dinner out, the new shoes, the weekend trip, because present you wants those things, and future you feels like a different person who can deal with their own problems. This isn't about being irresponsible or short-sighted. It's actually a really normal quirk of how human brains process time. We're not wired to care as much about our future selves as we care about our present selves. Neuroscience research has shown that when people think about their future selves, the part of their brain that lights up is similar to when they think about strangers. Future you literally doesn't feel like you. So sacrificing something now for future you's benefit feels like you're doing a favor for someone else, not yourself. The sixth habit is what I'd call the all-or-nothing trap with money. You decide you're going to get serious about your finances, so you create this really strict budget where you're barely allowed to spend anything on fun or enjoyment. You stick to it for like a week or two, feel miserable the whole time, and then you inevitably crack and go back to your old habits, except now you feel like a failure on top of it. This happens because you're treating money management like a diet, where you're either being good and depriving yourself or being bad and indulging. But that framework doesn't work for money any better than it works for food. What actually works is finding a sustainable middle ground where you're saving consistently but also allowing yourself to enjoy your money in ways that matter to you. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. It's making slightly better choices most of the time, not making perfect choices all the time. The seventh habit, and this might be the most psychologically complex one, is avoiding your finances entirely when things feel overwhelming. You stop checking your account because you know it'll stress you out. You don't open bills right away. You ignore that text from your bank about low balance. And the paradox is that the more you avoid looking at your money situation, the worse it gets, which makes you want to avoid it even more. This is what psychologists call avoidance coping, and it's your brain's way of protecting you from anxiety in the short term. But it makes everything worse in the long term because problems don't go away just because you're not looking at them. They compound, they grow, and the longer you avoid dealing with them, the more overwhelming they become, which makes you want to avoid them even more. It's this vicious cycle that keeps people stuck in financial chaos for years. So those are the 7 habits. And if you recognized yourself in most or all of them, that's actually a good thing. Because awareness is the first step to changing anything. You can't fix patterns you don't see. And now that you see them, you can start making different choices. Here's what I want you to understand. Your 20s are this weird financial moment where you're probably making more money than you ever have before. But you also have more expenses and more freedom to make your own choices. And the habits you build right now in this decade are going to shape your entire financial future. If you spend your 20s stuck in these patterns, you'll likely spend your 30s still broke but with more responsibilities. But if you can shift even a few of these habits now, the compound effect over time is massive. You don't have to fix everything at once. You don't have to become some perfect financial robot who never enjoys their money. Just pick one habit from this list that resonated most with you and focus on shifting that one thing for the next month. Maybe you start tracking your spending so you actually know where your money goes. Maybe you set up automatic transfers so you're saving before you have a chance to spend. Maybe you unsubscribe from marketing emails so you're not constantly being sold things you don't need. The point is to start somewhere, to make one small change that moves you in a better direction. Because here's the truth. Being broke in your 20s isn't inevitable. It's not just how this decade is supposed to be. It's the result of these specific patterns. And patterns can be changed. You just have to see them clearly and decide that you're ready to do something different. And if you found this helpful, if any of this resonated with you, let me know in the comments which habit you recognized most in yourself. And consider subscribing because I make content like this exploring the psychology behind our financial decisions and how to actually change them. You've got this.